Welcome to another bite-sized VO radio show. I'm Andrew Peters, and up in Sydney
is Robbo. How are you?
I'm good, mate.
That's good.
What's happening?
Oh, another day, another dollar. Working on a TV project, a little show called The House of Wellness, which is a bit of fun at the moment. That's keeping me going along. And
hopefully keeping you well.
And keeping me well, that's right. And a bit of stuff for Australia's biggest telco, producing, ironically, a couple of podcasts for Telstra, which has been good fun too. So always something to keep things going along.
I just got a notice from Telstra about a minute ago, saying that your NBN is not delivering what you're paying for, and therefore we owe you a refund.
Wow. That's unheard of.
I'll tell you what else is unheard of. I did a quote for a job last week. And they sent an email back going, "Oh, it's a little high. Can you trim it a bit?" And I thought, "Oh, okay,
here we go."
So I gave it a serious haircut, and then the phone rang, and I recognised it was from the Middle East. Thought, interesting. Picked up the phone, and it was the client saying, "I think you've gone a bit too low. Can you put that up a bit?"
Wow.
Have you ever heard those words before?
Wow, it must be your lucky week.
Yeah. No, that was great though. I was like, well, okay, great. This is fantastic. I like it.
Yeah. I've never had a client who's told me to charge them more. I need more of those clients.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, you've spent the money well though, because you've been doing a bit of shopping, you were telling me before we started recording.
Well, I did. It was quite a few months ago. I saw on one of the trading posts, and it was a guy selling a pair of VU meters. And I can't remember. I know they're Sydney made. They're proper VUs, and they're probably 40 plus years old.
Wow.
And I picked them up. He said they were great, working perfectly, picked them up, and I sent them off to a guy that I use here to service bits and pieces, and a guy called Ross Giles Audio, give him a plug. I sent them off to him. He had a look at them and said, yeah, they're working perfectly. So now he's just building the unit, and it's going to be like a 19-inch rack space for the two VUs and whatever. Which is great, but the thing is, of course, I'm not really au fait with the whole VU thing. I'm assuming that in the old days of analog, if you went over zero, it didn't really matter that much. You just got a bit of, interesting sound.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, but I think with digital, the sound is far less interesting and more disturbing.
Yeah.
But where would I, if I've got VUs? What am I looking at? What's going to be my peak?
Well, it starts. The first thing you want to do is you want to calibrate them. So my studio, I actually have analog meters in my studio as well.
Yep.
And they are calibrated at -10. So basically, what I did was I took the output of Pro Tools and I put up a bit of 1K tone at -10 on the Pro Tools meters, so I knew I was getting -10. And basically what I did then, the needles that are on your VU meter, I set to 0.
At -10, okay.
Yeah, so what the meters are actually reading is -10, but what they think they're reading is 0. Does that make sense?
Yep, I understand.
Because what that's doing is that's giving you headroom. That's giving you 10 dB of headroom before you hit distortion. So
cool.
The other thing to remember here is that VU meters aren't a peak meter. A peak meter will give you what's happening at that very instant on that piece of audio. A VU meter, like you'll be having sitting on your desk or mounted wherever you're going to have them sitting, is giving you an average over time. So it's only an average level. It's not an instantaneous, my God, that's +1, so that's why it's distorting.
Okay.
So that's the difference. So peak metering is a completely different thing, and peak metering you will find in your digital workstation. Everybody will have it. And I use peak metering in Pro Tools. So like right now I'm sitting here watching a peak meter. So I can see if I hear a clip, I can mark it or whatever, or I can see that it's clipping and I can pull everything back a little bit because that is absolute right now. This is what's happening. And it's not a huge delay with a VU meter, but it is an average over time.
Okay.
Just to confuse things even more, if you want to talk TV land, we're talking LUKS. LUFKS, which is an average over the time of that whole piece of program. So if you want to throw it even more confusing in there. So what happens there is when I'm finished a TV mix, each segment has to be set to comply with -24, which is the Australian standard LUFKS. So I have a piece of software that I put it in, and more often than not, it'll say, oh, well, it's about -20. So then I have to pull the level down of that whole piece of program until it meters -24, and then I can output it. And that's that. But what that's basically doing is saying in that whole piece of audio that's going to air on television, the average sound level is -24 LUFKS. So there's a million different ways to meter. I'm an old school boy. I mean, I love my VUs. I can't go past them. I watch them as I pass through, and that's probably because that's how I grew up. Peak metering has its moments, I guess, especially when we're doing stuff like this, when we're recording live. And if there's, I can see that everything's going okay. And then obviously the television one that's more of a compliance thing, which probably no one who listens to this podcast will ever have to worry about. But it's just interesting that there's, I guess the point I was trying to make is there's more than one way to meter. So yeah.
There you go. Well, there you go. I'm going to have to calibrate my VUs when they arrive. Could be my early Christmas present.
That's right. So, I mean, the nice thing there is if you know that if you go into the red, and I'm using jock speak here, dumb it down for you.
Yep.
If you go into the red.
You're talking my language, yep.
Yeah, if you go into the red, that you're actually you're actually not distorting because you've got that 10 dB of headroom to play with. So yeah.
Cool.
That's not a bad way to work. Hopefully we've helped a few people with that one.
Well, it makes sense for me just to have them here, just on the off chance that I have someone like you drop in who actually has to record some stuff. At least if all the tools are here, they can make things happen.
Well, I can imagine it must be handy for you as well, though. I mean, because you and I grew up in the same era of radio and audio in general. You must be more used to a VU meter than you would be a peak meter or a digital meter of some type.
Oh, absolutely. That was the whole experience of working in a radio studio was looking at VU meters.
Yeah,
and I can still remember in would have been the late 70s in radio. There wasn't a new song then. It was by the Raspberries, a song called "Go All the Way." Do you remember it?
I do vaguely. Yeah.
Yep. Well, if you ever get the chance, grab that song, stick it on, and watch it on VU meters because the VUs do not move.
It's just pinned, is it?
They just sit there.
Compress the living shit out of it.
It is absolutely. It's been roller pinned. It's not going anywhere.
Wow, brick wall limiter and just wind it up, baby.
Yep, that's exactly what they've done. Really, check it out.
That was back in the days of all the loudness. And I suppose we're getting off topic here and probably another subject for another day, but all the big loudness battles that the radio stations used to have as who could be louder than the other. I remember days of the PD walking into the production suite going, I was just listening to Today FM and they're heaps louder than us when I'm listening in the car. It's like, well, that's what a fucking volume knob's for. Never understood it, but there you go.
Yeah. Strange. Well, we should actually talk about monitoring, and we should do that on another episode.
Yeah, why don't we? We'll have a look at that next week, shall we? I can throw a few things in the can there and kick it around.
All right, beautiful. We'll chat next week.
See you then.
The VO Radio Show is produced in the studios of Voodoo Sound. To polish your next audio production, check us out at voodoo-sound.com. Find professional voices simply all in one place. Realtimecasting.com, including me.